Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood, the software manager for RNK Distributing, and today's video is to introduce you to the latest program in the RNK family of software. It's called N Quilt. And if you've recently visited the RNK Software Club website, that's what I'm showing you now, rnksoftware.club, you'll notice that there's a new program called N Quilt that's been added to the list of programs. Now, anybody who owns any of our different RNK software will automatically be a member of this club, and you're welcome to come here to learn, more about your favorite programs, whether you own FTCU Total Control or Floriani Total Quilter, Floriani Sketch-A-Stitch, Floriani Lettering Master. We also have N Quilt by Quilters Select and Alex Anderson. We've got Craft and Cut, which is also a Quilters Select software, and the Cool Embellish Maker software, and there's more. If you click on more, you can actually learn about all the different programs that we make and sell at RNK Distributing. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people who own the Floriani software and maybe some that own the Total Quilter software would like to know how they're different and what the difference is between something like N Quilt and Total Quilter. And so if you stick around at the end of today's video, I'll talk a little bit about Total Quilter and how it's different from N Quilt and how both programs are really excellent programs, and you may want to even end up owning both of them. So now that said, if you click on the link for N Quilt, it will take you to a new area of our website that's been made just for N Quilt. This is the Explore page where, first of all, you could download a copy of the software. Go ahead and download it and install it. If you haven't purchased it yet, you can try it. You won't be able to save anything, and you won't be able to use the all-important print preview button, but that said, you will be able to experience it and learn a little bit about it. Now, that said, you can also watch the videos in the RNK Software Club. Click here to learn more about the tools and features. Click here to watch all of the training videos. Click here to get the quick start guide. So there's a step-by-step sort of booklet that you can learn with. There's also the sort of software manual. Here you can click to learn about the software requirements. So yes, it works on Windows like all RNK software, and probably any computer you can buy today has got all the minimum requirements. That said, click here to learn about them all. And if you click down at the bottom, it says click here to visit the Quilters Select website. Well, this is our sort of public website where you could learn more about the program. And here we've got a great video by Vanessa, who's done a really wonderful job of helping to introduce the program, as well as images that kind of highlight all of the cool parts about the software. And so this is a great place to learn more about what the reasons why somebody who loves to make quilts will absolutely want to have N Quilt as one of their quilting tools. And I think it's just a very sort of natural progression to being able to quickly design up a cool quilt on your software and then color it in with your favorite fabric libraries and the fabrics that you can buy in your store, or take pictures of the fabric that you own, color your quilts with them, and be sure you've got it right. Now you can decide if you like it better in pink or in blue before you buy the fabric, before you cut anything. And so the software will provide you with the fabric information, how much you need to buy, how to cut it up. You can create actual size templates from it. If you like to do foundational paper piecing, the software's got the ability to do foundational paper piecing. Alex taught us all about foundational paper piecing, and the software is able to create all the templates that you need for that. And of course, if you have an embroidery machine, you can use your N Quilt software to create quilt labels, to create quilt textures, to even interact with your long arm quilt frames. And so it really is kind of an amazing program for a quilter. Without further ado, let's go ahead and click on the actually, before I do that, I want to just show you in the RNK Software Club, if you click on the training videos or the tools and features, what you'll find is that we've broken them down into categories. So there's over 80 videos that are available in the library, and they're broken up into smaller groups. The Getting Started group, this is about quilt blocks, and this is about making layouts, and this is about changing the colors and decorating with fabrics, and this one's about artwork and applique, and we've got one just in general tools, as well as a playlist for embroidery capabilities and long arm capabilities. And whatever one you click on, it'll give you a video player with a series of videos that you could click on to watch. And so go ahead and learn more about the Design and Quilt software. And so now I'll go ahead and click on the program and open it up. The first thing you'll see is the Today page, a picture of Alex and some of the latest information about the software. This information will change from time to time. I'll go ahead and close that and kind of quickly go through some of the highlights of the program. First of all, these yellow tools are our libraries. There's a block library and a quilt library. And if I click on Quilt Library, it has all of the Alex Anderson quilts that were made for Quilt Select. They're all already created. If you've ever seen the Flower Pops quilt, now you can open it up and admire it. You can change its colors. If you're like, gee, I wonder what it would look like with a pink background instead of white, just click on pink, click and drag, let go over the white, and change the colors. And it can be really as easy as that to interact with your quilts. Click on Print Preview to get the printed results. And so the idea is that we have quilts, different quilts that you can choose from. This is the latest quilt that Alex used. It was designed in the Quilt Select software, Design and Quilt, and quilted together. It's the latest quilt that Alex helped design, and it's got beautiful flower appliques all the way around it. Well, all you have to do is click on Print Preview to get all of the different information, whether it be how much fabric you need to buy, and what you get is the print settings where you can decide what gets printed. Do you want actual size templates? Do you want rotary cutting instructions? Do you want a fabric summary, etc., etc.? And whatever you choose is what gets returned in the sort of page results. And then you can go through and look at the different pages and see these are all the pieces that are going to be required to make this quilt, including all of the different applique pieces. And then it will show you how much fabric you're going to need and how to construct, where everything goes, like a legend of your quilt. And so this is the idea that you can create a quilt layout. You can also do your own blocks. And so if I click on here, I've got a block library, and now I've got different categories of blocks that I can scroll through, and whichever one I click on, I can open up this block and color the block with different colors or put fabrics in my block. So for example, I can pop up my fabric library, select an area of my quilt, and choose a colored fabric to color in there with. And so this is the idea that you can quickly imagine what the quilt's going to look like with the actual fabrics that you're going to make. And then if you click on Print Preview, it's going to give you the printed instructions to, make that quilt block. If you take the block and use it in a quilt, then it'll give you the instructions to make the entire quilt. And so currently this is set for foundational paper piecing. If I turn that off and turn on rotary cutting, then it'll tell me a picture of the block. It'll show me the the pieces that are required to put together the block. It'll tell me how much fabric I need for each fabric, and then it'll tell me how to cut that fabric up. And so if you wanted to do this as a foundational paper piece, you could click on this tool here to interact with the foundational paper piecing instructions. If you click auto assign, the computer kind of decides for you that it's going to go, sew piece 1 to piece 2, and then sew piece 1 and 2 to piece 3. And this is kind of the idea that, you could manually assign it if you want to and say, well, actually, I think I'll do this one and then that one and then this one, or whatever you want. And when you click play, it kind of shows you what the block looks like and the sequence that you're going to construct it with. And so now that I've done all this, we could easily print in templates for this. And so it's pretty cool. You can set the size of the block if you want to make any size. It's currently an 8-inch block. If you just type in 6, we can make this a 6-inch block. It can be whatever size you want. When you're ready, you click on the Print Preview and you get to choose what kind of instructions. And so I'll change it to foundational paper piecing, say OK. It gives me a picture of the block, tells me the pieces that are required, tells me how much fabric, and now it gives me the templates that are required to make that block in foundational paper piecing. And so this is the concept that you design and then the software provides help and information. There's some wonderful tools for designing with. So for example, right here we have create your own block tools. There's two tools, an easy block and an advanced block. And it's not that the advanced block is harder, it's more that you can create curved style blocks and more advanced construction methods, I guess would be the difference. If I click on easy block, I get a grid of like rows and columns of squares. I can change those to be half square triangles or quarter square triangles. And when I click apply, it makes them, whatever I've chosen. Now you can use the select tool to select portions of those and unite them together and say this square will be a piece of my quilt. And then I can even click on like one little triangle at a time and say, well, maybe those four are going to be a piece of my quilt, or maybe there's going to be a rectangle right here, or maybe I want a triangle. I also have a lasso selection tool. So with lasso selection, I can like click around an area to select it and then unite it. And so it's pretty easy to like create your own shapes like this and unite them together and create anything that you want. Now, once you select your shapes, you can color them in with colors. And so it's very easy to create your own quilt blocks using this new interactive kind of chart of squares and triangles and put them together into kind of any pieces that you want to. The other new tool is the advanced block tool. And like I said here, it's not necessarily hard to use, but it gives you more advanced block shapes. So I simply click and drag to draw the pieces of my block. And if I click and drag I can turn on a grid. And so if you are good with grids, you can use that to design. If you know that you want to make a line that starts in the center and goes right to that corner, et cetera, like this. And so you can easily use this to design your own quilt blocks. And once you've made all your pieces, you use your select tool to select on those pieces and color them in. And so you can easily make your own interesting quilt blocks. If you wanted these to be curved blocks, so let's just make this piece here, and then what I'll do is go from the drawing tool to the shaping tool, and now I can click on this line and change it to be like a curved line like this. And so you'll learn more when you watch the videos about how you can create very unique quilt blocks this way. But the idea is once I've created my quilt block, I can select it and use copy and then make a quilt layout, and then click on a block and paste it in there. Or I can click on a block and click on my block library and go shopping for blocks. And you could make your own sampler quilt with all kinds of different blocks. And of course, we make it very simple to make any block that you've ever seen. So you can make your own blocks. You can work with the blocks that it comes with. You can create your own layouts. You'll notice that the Alex Anderson quilts incorporate a lot of really cool techniques. Alex will have sashing with cornerstones. Alex will use applique pieces to decorate her quilts, borders, and blocks. She'll use block-built borders or piece-built borders. And so all of these things are capable within the software. You can add more borders, as many borders as you want. Just click on add a border. Once you add a border, then the question is, what style do you want? Just select your border, come over here, change it from mitered to a strip horizontal or a strip vertical, anything you want. Go ahead and select all the borders. Just maybe hold down Control and click, click, click to select them all, and then choose what color you want them to be. And so really it can be kind of very easy to design your own quilts. Now, there's a lot of really amazing tools in the design and quilt software that I won't take the time to show them all to you today, but highlights would be the fabric designing tool. Highlights would be, of course, all of the different tools for creating blocks and doing the print preview to get all of the amazing sort of information. That said, the fabric gallery, so I think I showed you that you have the ability to take your blocks and decorate them in your own fabrics. And then, of course, you have the ability to create embroidery as well. And so this is one of those those areas where I think you'll find that there's some similarities between your embroidery software like Floriani, because yes, if you also own something like Floriani, then you may already have the ability to create an area like a box like this and assign a style of stitching to it. For example, I could choose a shape echo and choose a flower and have that flower get echoed kind of inside of my shape like that. And so let's try diamond. That looks better. So the idea is that you can create embroidery, yes, using Design and Quilt. However, the main functions of Design and Quilt are as a tool for a quilter to help them design their latest quilt and recolor it in fabrics and get it perfect. There's even a button up here. I love this one. It's called the Create a Snapshot. It'll make a JPEG of your quilt. You can send it to your mom. Do you like it better in red or do you like it better in black? So this is Design and Quilt, and I hope you would love to learn more about it. Please visit the website, RNK Software Club. Watch all the videos. If you want to learn more, visit an RNK distributor or store. In other words, go to your local Floriani shop, your local embellish maker shop, or your local Quilt Select shop, and ask them if they have a copy of Design and Quilt, and if not, they will be able to get that for you. So that's the first part of today's video, and then I said I would show a little bit, so let's just switch to the Floriani software. And now I'm opening up our amazing Floriani Universal Suite. This is all of the Floriani software put together. And in reality, Floriani, when you talk about activating the software, there's more than one program that's all been activated here. Because Floriani Total Control is our main embroidery program, and it puts the majority of the capabilities into my workspace. That said, Total Quilter has been added, so has Sketch-A-Stitch, Lettering Master, and Rainbow, and I have them all activated and shown on my screen. But what I want to point out today is the toolbar on the left, this toolbar down here, specifically these purple tools and these blue tools, those tools are exclusive to Floriani Total Quilter, and they're very different from the tools of Design and Quilt. Now, granted, if I click on this tool, I have a browser that allows me to browse through a library of quilt blocks. And when I click on a quilt block and open it up, the difference here is these are ready-made embroidery designs. Yes, this is a quilt block, but it's also ready to send it to my embroidery machine and sew it. And it includes what we call the Floriani aptly quilting technique. And this is an amazing technique that Floriani has pioneered for creating embroidery quilt blocks. In other words, you're going to use your beautiful embroidery machine, and the machine will make the blocks for you. And so Design and Quilt's for people that love to quilt the way they already love to quilt, and it's simply a design tool, whereas Floriani Total Control is really, Total Quilter is really about creating quilt blocks using your embroidery machine. And this block is all ready to go. I could, if I wanted to make a quilt layout with it, fine. So select your block, click on copy, create a layout, and so similar, yes, I can take my blocks and put them into a layout, but the difference here is when I'm done designing my quilt, I'm not going to get a print preview to make printed templates as much as I'm going to click on one of these export tools. There's export to Apply Quilt, export to faux piecing, and export to applique blocks. And the idea is when I click on one of these tools, we go through a series of questions. Where do you want to save the file, and what name shall it get? And then how much seam allowance do you want? And then first of all, what embroidery format shall it make? Because it's going to create embroidery designs. So you can choose your format. And then next question is, what kind of cutting files would you like? And it'll make SVG files for every piece of my quilt so that I could use a cutting machine to cut all of these pieces. And then finally, it'll make images for me. If you didn't want to cut it with a digital cutting machine, you could click here to get templates for manual cutting. But the idea is when you click export, it creates a folder on your computer with all of the files that are needed to make this entire quilt. And that's very different than in Design and Quilt, where you can create a quilt layout and it will tell you how much fabric you need and how to cut it up and make templates. but it does not automate the process of making embroidery. Yes, you could create embroidery with Designing Quilt, but it's not an automated process like we have in Total Quilter. And in Total Quilter, really the end result is this special applique quilting. There's lots to learn about the Floriani Total Quilter as well. And if you go onto our website, the rnksoftware.club, click on the home button at the top, notice that there's a tab there for Total Quilter. And when you click on Total Quilter, the whole area of the website is all about Total Quilter. There is a free monthly video that's made every month showing you, how to use Total Quilter for all types of great, amazing projects. There's this goes back for several years. Mark Geertz is one of our national Floriani educators, does an amazing job with the Total Quilter sort of training. And so they are very different programs. I will say that it's not wrong to want to own them both. That said, if you don't own either and you're a quilter, then I highly suggest the new Designing Quilt software by Quilters Select. It's the perfect software for anybody that makes quilts. It'll become one of your favorite tools in your quilting collection, just like our amazing Quilters Select rulers and mats are. That said, if you really love to create embroidery and you're a Floriani person and you already own the Floriani software, buying Total Quilter is a wonderful add-on to the program because it gives you the ability to create in an automated way your own, quilt in the hoop designs. And so if you have questions, certainly we're here to answer them for you guys. I strongly suggest you visit your local store who knows more about Floriani, who knows more about Quilters Select. I know that they'll be happy to help you with the questions. That said, don't be afraid to reach out to us at RNK Distributing and ask questions if you want to know anything more about the new Designing Quilt software, which is inspired by Alex Anderson in our Quilters Select line. If you're brand new, if you own a quilt shop, we would love for you to offer our new software in your quilt shop. And so please get in touch with RNK Distributing to find out more about how you can have Designing Quilt available in your store. That said, I think you'll find that if you visit your favorite Floriani dealer, they probably already have a copy and will be more than happy to help you learn more about it. And so thank you so much for listening to today's video. Thank you for your interest in all of our software products. And on behalf of myself and everybody at RNK, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and bye for now.